Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Traumaplicity Podcast with your host, Dr. Amanda Helman, author, breakthrough coach, and speaker. Traumaplicity is trauma plus simplicity. And you might say, what? How do we use those words? Well, our brain responds to simple steps to help us get ahead in the healing process rather than think of the whole picture and make us overwhelmed. We know that trauma can be complex, it can take time, but having our traumaplicity helps us to gain some simple steps to move ahead. We have amazing guests, including Louisa tonight, sharing about her in just a moment. And they'll share about their part of their trauma story, some tips that they have used that may encourage you and support your journey, and then a word of encouragement wherever you are. Thank you all for tuning in. We always have this on Wednesdays and certainly can't wait for you to hear more. And without further ado, tonight's guest is Louisa Thiessen, and she is a trauma survivor and someone who is thriving with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. She has her own business in which she combines her expertise in the administrative field with mental health challenges. And she is a huge mental health advocate, and she's here to show the world that having a mental illness does not have to stop you from reaching your dreams. It is an honor to have you on here, Louisa, and thank you for sharing your story. And so with that, I'd love to start with you sharing part of your trauma journey or your story.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Amanda. As you said, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and you don't get that with just one traumatic event. So if I were to share my full story, we would be here for a very, very long time. So when you asked me to share part of my trauma story, I figured that I would start with the last straw. I had childhood trauma. I had trauma through my adolescence. And then just when I thought that I would break free from it, I experienced another traumatic event, which happened to be in the workplace. So I landed a job with a nonprofit organization that also provided a place for me to live. And living quarters was amazing because it helped me escape one of my abusers, which was also my mom. So I started there and I thought everything would work out great. And then I got to learn about how controlling people can be in the workplace. And I started to realize that it wasn't a safe place. I started to realize that just because this organization prides themselves in being safe or being good people, it does not mean that that's the case. So I worked there for about 3 years, and I think it took me about a year to realize that I was in trouble. It was a place where I was forced to become someone that I wasn't. I had to constantly go the extra mile. The resting was a no-go. Like if you rested, you were lazy. And I kind of adapted that mindset. It's just like, you don't crawl in sick. You don't call in sick, you crawl in sick. And there even came a time where I tore a muscle, MCL, and I was in crutches, and I still had to work, and there was a snowfall. And I should say that I grew up in New York City, and there I didn't drive. So I had to get to work and I had to use my crutches. And I remember very vividly, sorry, I might get a little teary. I remember vividly that it started snowing really bad. And I told my boss that I couldn't make it because I couldn't get my crutches on the snow. And he's like, well, you need to figure out how to get here. So I had a girlfriend who also worked with me. I told her what happened, and she gave me a piggyback ride to work, and there I was. So I think through that, it damaged me very, well, even more than before, because now I was an adult, right? I thought I was safe. I thought I escaped all my trauma, all my abuse, and then I landed there again. So after 3 years of that, I decided it was time to go. And even through that, just like, any abuser, they don't want you to go. They're going to manipulate you and tell you all these things that are not true. So like, I was told that I was a problem. I was told that I didn't need to leave, that anywhere I went, pretty much that I was going to be the problem. But after that experience, I left actually, and I moved from New York City all the way to British Columbia, Canada. And here I am now. Yeah, so that's just a little glimpse of a very short part of the trauma.
Yeah, understandably. Yeah. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Louisa. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry, all of a sudden I had a little beep buzz on my end. Take that out. I don't know. Can you hear that?
No, I can hear it.
Okay. All right. Well, it's just my side, I guess, and I'll have to pretend that it's not happening. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey, Louisa, especially having childhood trauma and then having work trauma and then having different abuses, different places can be really challenging. And I really love that in the hard stuff that you had people that were supportive, like that one friend that gave you a piggyback all the way to work, that was willing to be there with you. And then also your as you continued and shared parts of your story, which I understand when you have complex trauma, it can be many things, but having, being able to finally leave New York City and go to British Columbia and even starting your new journey, which it seems like you've had a journey and you're continuing to do that. And so tell me a little bit more. So I know you shared that you have, do a lot of administration and your business. So tell us a little bit about that and how that came about from everything that you've been through.
Okay, so when I moved, I've been living here for, I want to say 8 years. And then I worked in admin field here as well. And then I had children and I decided that I'd be a stay-at-home mom. But I have two kids. One of them's 5, the other one's 4. So they're 17 months apart. And I remember I reached a really dull season in my life where I was like, I need to do something with my life. And then I was like, what can I do? And then I was like, well, I love helping people and I love admin. So how about I just start helping people administratively? And I knew there were so many people who were burnt out and even people who worked in an organization where I worked that had ventured off and started their own business. So I decided, you know what, I'll just offer admin help. I put it on my Facebook and then it just blew up. And then I realized that I had to figure out if this would become a business, because I mean, I can't make money and not pay taxes. I mean, I could, but it's illegal, right? So then I decided to just create a business, and my business name is Admin Virtuosa, which is virtuous with an A at the end. And when I did that, I wanted it to emphasize told and working to highlight burnout. I wanted to highlight mental health struggles. And I think when I look back to this guy's organization I worked in that traumatized me some more, I realized that I had some mental health battles. Like I had depression and I had anxiety, and no one ever considered it. No one talked about it. And even working in corporate over here, like no one, you just keep going and going and going, and no one ever talks about that mental health fog that affects you. So with my business, I wanted to highlight that. I wanted to highlight that, yes, I can help you prevent burnout by helping you administratively, but I can also help you by supporting you and sharing my story and hearing your story, and kind of like a friendship / workship relationship type thing. So that's the gist of it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. So that's great. And I see that in the back. That's what I wanted to ask you, because I think parts of it, I couldn't see a little part of it, but now I can. But I love admin virtuosa. I'd say most of it, but that was what I was curious about.
I'm so numb to this thing. It didn't even clear my head that it's in the back.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I saw it. That's so great. No, but that's wonderful. And I'm glad that you can now, use your skills. You made it into something that you can help other people with and make it purposeful. So great. And so thinking about your journey, there were different tips. And I always say like there could be strategies, but my way of strategy is like simple steps or simple things that helped you in your process and your healing journey. What have been some things that have helped you? At least three of them.
Okay. The first one I would start off, which a lot of people, it's kind of like a taboo subject, at least in my culture, like I'm Hispanic, find a therapist. Just because you go to a therapist, it does not mean you're crazy. It means you're wise. So find a therapist that specializes in trauma. There's lots of therapists out there, but you have to find a trauma specific one, because then they're not going to really understand you. And I know with someone like me, it was very important that they had some kind of background, that they also went through the trauma, because I didn't want like the fluffy stuff. Oh my gosh, can you hear that sound? Do you hear it?
I can see it. No, I know. Well, both of us were saying that, so I think it's on input. Nope, I don't.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so find a counselor, find a therapist. The second thing that I found very hard to do was find a tribe. Because when you have trauma, especially complex trauma, it's so hard to trust people. And even still to today, like it's a challenge for me to let people in. But I do have like my few friends, even my girlfriend who gave me a piggyback ride. We're still very good friends. I have a tribe that I'm able to talk to and just be real. And when you're having a bad day, you can just be like, hey, I'm having a pretty crappy day. I need some encouragement, or I just need someone to sit with me. And even on like those dark days that no one talks about, like when you're feeling like suicidal, it's good to have your tribe, because you can just be like, hey, look, the fog is dark. You don't even have to mention the S word. You could just say the fog is dark. Can you come sit with me or just help me, right? That was the second one. And I think acknowledging that you were actually wronged, that was also hard for me in every single traumatic event that I had, because it was always, I need to work on myself. I need to figure out what's wrong with me. But yes, there's something wrong with everyone. We all have our flaws, but you don't deserve certain things. Like I had to acknowledging my mom was an abuser was hard. Acknowledging friends, this workplace thing, just acknowledging everyone that actually hurt me was a hard one, but it was also liberating, because I had that weight lifted off, and it's like, okay, it's not me. They were legit wrong. Like, yeah. And I, even as I think of it, I remember the liberated moment where I was like, no, it's not me. Or even saying that my mom was abusive, that felt like a curse word. And then when I had to like keep repeating it, like, so I can actually let go of everything that was on me, or the pressure. And then lastly, I think doing something that brings you joy. As cliche as it sounds, working brings me joy. Like it's my happy place. I get to help people, and it actually got me out of that dull moment with my kids. Like it's like doing something for myself. I'm giving back to the community. Also share my story. It gives me life, because I think that someone's gonna hear this and they're gonna be like, oh, I can relate. And if she can do it, then I can do it, right? So I think those would be the 4 tips I'd say to trying to overcome trauma. And it looks different for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I first one, therapist, and I love that you said, like, you're Hispanic, and but having the going to therapists, and I always say there's 8 billion people on the planet. 8 billion people need therapy, counsel. And then I know you said about the tribe, and that can be tricky too, right? Because they're like, who's safe, who's not. And you said your one friend was on the crutches. So that is important. And then I know you talked about even just like not always taking the responsibility for owning everything, and realizing other people were abusive, and that you didn't have to take that, and that you could process that they chose that it's hard because, like there's that with abuse is hard because you have that relationship. It's confusing when you're a kid or your childhood trauma. Like sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't, and then try to not take the blame for everything. So I think that's powerful and really learning how to process that. And then also I liked, you talked about almost like signals. So when you're having a hard day, having people who can pick on your signals, so you don't always have to say the words, so that it could be helpful. So thank you so much. And obviously it may differ, but a lot of these things, sometimes you never know. Each person might be different, but one thing that they hear from you, Louisa, may really sit with them. So thank you. And just coming near the end of this, we are looking at encouraging the audience. So imagining someone, maybe they're where you were, a different situation, but perhaps they're, having trauma in different places and they're really struggling in terms of like what to do. What is your encouragement for them?
I think I would say that if you felt like you have to work to belong, then it's not real belonging. That the place where you belong, you don't have to work at it. People will just accept you as you are. And that's in every single relationship, whether it's work, with even like my husband, he accepts me just the way. I don't have to work to belong. He knows my trauma. He knows I can go crazy, but he loves me enough to be like, you belong, I love you. And I don't have to work for it. So also, if you don't feel safe, then follow your gut. You're not crazy if you don't feel safe. You are given these emotions for a reason. So listen to them.
Well, thank you so much, Louisa. Yeah, those are great words of wisdom, to have a healthy, safe relationship and having people in your life that are supportive is really what I'm hearing. And also, yeah, if you're not feeling safe, or even with emotions, that they're obviously oftentimes telling us exactly how we're feeling and that something might be off. So thank you so much. And certainly, Louisa, you put some information for people to get in touch with you. If they have any questions, certainly we will make sure that you get that. I'll post that on my YouTube and the podcast. So it'll be in the little description. So certainly if this resonates with you and you're like, wow, Louisa's story is similar to yours, or perhaps you're just like, yeah, I really, really want some more help or want to seek Louisa out and what she's doing, certainly do so. And again, Louisa, it's wonderful having you on.
Thanks for having me. It's been an honor.
Absolutely. So with that said, everybody, we have our Traumaplicity talk show, that really the podcast, depending if it's on our podcast, YouTube. And so this is every Wednesday. Make sure you catch it. And as always, remember that you are always loved, valued, and that you matter at all times, no matter what. And so certainly I hope you have a great week, and I can't wait to have you come back and tune in next week for some other guest who's going to give you some encouragement on this journey. So take care, everybody. Have a great week. And thank you again, Louisa.
You're welcome.